hustle got to be strong in this industry, as in any other industry.
Before we get into this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you aren't subscribed. Come on, man, don't be afraid to hit that thing, man. It ain't no big deal, it's just a little button. And I ain't gonna lie, like when I'm watching people's videos and they tell me to like, I'm hitting it, man. I'm trying to support. I try and watch everybody's videos. I try and show some support. Show some support, man. My brother needs some support. Like, I'll get all up in my feelings, man. You have to go find me a safe space. Just hit that like, hit the subscribe, and then we're going to be all good. Alright, guys, so while I'm sitting here in line at the Blue Beacon, take a look at that. Look at that. That's a long line. Figure that's, let's see. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks to be 6-ish, possibly 7 trucks ahead of me in this line. So I'm looking to be in line for, you can usually average it out 20 minutes a truck, so I'm going to be here about 2 hours. It is 1:25 Eastern. Let's see how accurate that is. I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions. Alright, first question. This comes from Kevin. He says, I'm going to start with a cargo van myself soon, but how can I find loads? Can I use load boards for loads like DAT or truck stop? Almost same as you, but with the van and shorter distance, around 200 to 300 miles a day. Alright, so I'm not super familiar with all of the load boards, but the load boards that he mentioned in that question, which was DAT and what was the other one he said? Truck stop. Yeah, truck stop, DAT. I think there's a 1, 2, 3 load board. There's probably some other free ones out there. The problem with vans on those type of boards are those are more geared towards the big trucks. And yes, there's partial loads on there that will fit in vans. So that's where the issue is that they're not just like with Selectus or Full Circle or some of these load boards that are geared towards expediting specifically. They're categorized pretty clearly, and the DIMs are pretty clear. On these load boards for the big trucks, in order to find van freight, sometimes it might be pretty simple, but it's going to be a lot of calls, a lot of emails, because they don't really post a lot of good information when they post these loads on those types of load boards. So it's a lot of fishing expedition going on. As long as you got the, as long as you got the hustle to get in there and make those calls and send out those emails, yeah, there's some freight out there for those. And wanting to do 200 to 300 miles a day. Now, and I'm assuming 200 to 300 miles a day. I'm also assuming that must mean you're probably trying to stay in a 200 to 300 mile radius, try to be home all the time. That's my guess as to what you're saying there. If it's not, just comment in this video if you're watching it and let me know what you mean specifically. Either or, it's going to work out the same. The only reason I ask about being home or not, because the other option about when you're home is that go to some local manufacturing spots or something and ask if they need a van. Ask if they have any use for your services. At least all they can tell you is no. They tell you no, what have you lost? You haven't lost anything. So, yeah. So, just that, the answer to that question is yeah, I'm sure you could. How well that'll work out, I'm not sure. Again, it's about how much, dedication and hustle.
Your hustle got to be strong in this industry, as in any other industry.
And energy you're going to put into these load boards, trying to, sift through all of those loads out there that are meant for tractors. Just trying to find it. So yeah, that's going to be the main thing. But yeah, you can make do. All right, next question. All right, this is Noel Kibrom. Hopefully I'm not tearing that last name up too badly, but they're asking if you could profit $3,000 a week while driving over the road and running hard. Thanks. Profit $3,000. No. Be very, very, very rare. Can you do it at some point? Sure, of course, yeah. I mean, running hard, yeah, of course, but it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen consistent enough. If that's what you're needing, is to profit $3,000 a week, do not expedite. That's the short and sweet of that one, because it's just too difficult to profit that much. Can you gross that much a week pretty consistently if you run hard? Yes, you can. Now, if you want to gross $3,000 a week, that's more likely and more possible as far as to run hard and gross $3,000. But profiting $3,000, that's what you meant. Like after your expenses, you put $3,000 in your pocket? No. Not consistent enough that if that's what you need, that's going to happen. So, no. Answer is no, don't do it. Don't even try to kid yourself. Don't listen to anybody trying to give you, pie in the sky story. It's not going to happen if that's what you need consistently. So, the answer to that's no. I'm not sure if I said that right. No. Next question. Beechergrad88. They're asking, is it possible to be hired on somewhere before purchasing a van? I'm sure there is a possibility of the agreement of being hired upon, and I think that might be what you mean. It is possible to go out and get with the carrier, find out all the particulars as far as what type of van do they expect you to have, any kind of insurances that you might have to get on your own to get in line with that, or to get it pre-approved through them, whether they're taking on vans. Like, as long as you're doing all of the pre-qualifying application stuff and everything seems to be, meshing together well, yeah, you can definitely have a place to bring your van on if you are going to buy one. Now, me personally, my situation was I was driving for a fleet owner with a certain carrier. Red Ball Express is who it was at first. And it was basically, hey, if I get a van, they're going to let me come on. So I had that agreement. So that's what I did. I bought the van and I went on with them. And then same thing, like when I moved from a cargo van, low roof cargo van, into this bigger Ford Transit, I spoke with Barrett, and Barrett was agreeable to bringing me on if I have the van size that they want, which is what I did. Then I went out and I purchased the 2017 Transit, and then I got on with Barrett. So as far as how that goes, doing it that way, yes, you can get hired on or have an agreement to come on with them before you buy the van. Now, mind you, if they tell you it's January and they say, hey, yeah, come on, go ahead, get the van, we're going to bring you on, all's good, and then you wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks, so on and so forth, then it's possible things have changed. Maybe business has slowed down and now they don't want to bring on another van and try to keep another van busy, or maybe they brought some on and because they never heard anything back from you. So be sure that if you're going to do it that way, that you do it pretty, fairly quickly. All right, next question. William Bianchi. He says, can you live in a different state than the carrier is based? He says, for instance, could someone who has a North Dakota driver's license get an expedited job or contract with a carrier in another state? Does that cause any problems? How often does a carrier require your physical presence at the office? I've done a video, I think, talking about that to an extent, but anyhow, it doesn't matter what state you live in. Now, especially if you have your own van, a carrier will take you on no matter what state you're in, as long as you understand that if you live in, you mentioned North Dakota, there ain't a lot of expedite freight going on in North Dakota. So, as long as you understand and you've made them aware that, hey, I don't expect you to get me home, and I don't expect you to get me out from home all the time when I'm there. We get lucky, great, but I don't require that for me to sign on with you. As long as you're under that understanding, most carriers wouldn't have a problem with bringing you on. Because once you've done orientation, you're not really ever needing to be physically in the office. I think there might be a couple of carriers that require you to bring your van in and have it inspected every so often. Other than that, there's no reason. Like, you can be anywhere. You just have to understand that the state you're in, if it's an odd state like North Dakota where there's not a lot of freight, when you go home, it is going to be extremely difficult for you to get out from home. You more than likely are going to have to deadhead to the next really good freight hub area in order to get a load to start off. Same thing with going home. You're more than likely not going to get a load taking you to North Dakota. Now, granted, there is some freight out there as far as North Dakota, but when you start going further, you start talking about like Montana, Wyoming. You know, it starts getting worse and worse and worse into the northwest. So, as long as you have that understanding, like, everything should work out fine, and there's not a problem with you living in a different state. Next question. Dust Rider 2001. He just says, I'm curious as to which is better, or the pros and cons of gas, diesel. Now, for me personally, like when I was looking for a van, when I first was looking for a van, that was before the Transits and ProMasters were out. One of the things I was looking into, like, I always had the understanding that diesel's best, especially for this over-the-road, long miles, all that good stuff. I always thought diesel was the best. So that's what I was first looking for. Now, my situation when I first started, very little money, pretty much broke as shit. So I had to think about, if I get started and I'm buying a used vehicle and I have a problem right off the bat, how well am I going to be able to absorb that cost of repair, depending on the vehicle? So that's what nixed diesels for me, because diesels are just a lot harder. They're more money to work on. You know, it's more expensive to get repaired. And the other part of that, money-wise, is that once you start paying attention, you do the math of the fuel mileage for a gas and a diesel, and then you look at the difference in cost. It was mere pennies as far as, you know, the expense. So it didn't matter really gas-wise, expense-wise, whether you went with diesel or gas. But repair-wise, difference in the amount for a tune-up, the difference in the amount if something goes bad with those diesels, like I said, it's a lot more expensive to fix, and you're a little more limited on who can fix it. So because of that, I decided to go with gas. Now, the other thing about diesels, the newer diesels, because of the DEF system and whatnot, there's a lot of issues with that DEF system acting up if you don't take care of it properly, if you don't maintain it properly. Now, if you're somebody who is great with, you know, doing your own work and keeping up on your maintenance and things like that, there's no reason a diesel can't do you good and whatnot. But these gas engines are just going so long that there's really not I don't see a difference in going with the diesel as far as a gas, as far as longevity. I mean, currently I'm at 333,000 on this thing. I've got a cargo van that's got 750 or 760,000, you know, original engine on it. So these gasoline engines have gotten really good. But yeah, as far as the pros and cons, I don't really know the pros of a diesel because I've never had one myself. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is fuel mileage. If you're like, oh my god, fuel mileage. But again, if you really sit down and do the numbers and crunch the numbers, I think it came up to where gas is saving you like a penny or two more in the long run. It might be the other way, but it's nothing major. The cons, like I said, is just the new DEF systems in these things are just, like I said, they're crap, especially if you idle them very much, it seems. So yeah, that's my take on the diesel as opposed to gas. Alright, next question. This is a simple one. Roaming with Rover. He's asking, what's the difference between expediting and hot shots? Now, currently, the difference is the hot shots are pulling the trailers. And depending on what size trailer you have and all that good stuff, you may have to have a CDL and you may not, but you do have to run E-logs with those because they will be over 10,000 gross. But and expediting is done in vans, straight trucks. Pretty much most of it is in enclosed vehicles. I don't know if it's more just that's just kind of the path that everybody took as far as an expediting. I'm sure that there's a possibility of getting some expedite freight on an open trailer. But if you're just asking in the definition, to me, I grew up with the hot freight being called hot shot freight, like the freight that was needed quickly, or was called hot shot freight. So I'm not sure exactly which question you're asking, but that's the best answer I have for either way it goes. But yeah, like this is more time critical and they want it ASAP, whereas hot shotters, they're more, some of it may need pretty quick, but they usually still have more extended times for delivery than we do in expediting. So that's the best answer I can give for the moment. If there's anybody that does hot shotting that can give a better answer than that, then just put it in the comments below. All right, next question. I'm not even going to attempt this dude's last name. Joel, Falcao. He asks, what do you need to add your van to a carrier? Basically, what do they ask for? Depending on the carrier. Most carriers, you're usually going to get your insurance through them. Maybe I shouldn't even say most, but anyhow, some carriers you're going to get your insurance through them. Okay? Aside from that, what they require from you is, like with Barrett, for instance. Barrett required me to have 144 inches of cargo space lengthwise, be capable of hauling 3,000 pounds, or I think it was 32 actually. I think it was like 3,200. They wanted you to, they required you to be able to take as much as 3,200 pounds, and that was pretty much it. Well, they did want your van to be in a only so many years old. I think right now they're doing 3 years old, and they don't want anything being brought on that's more than 3 years old, I believe, right now. And that's going to be the same for most carriers. They're gonna want your vehicle, a certain age. They don't want it so old. They might require certain cargo capacity limits, but there's many out there that just, if you got a van and you may have to go out and get your own insurance if they don't provide the insurance. But aside from that, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not much required. Not much required at all. You might be required to take a drug test. They're going to do a background check on you, I'm sure. But yeah, aside from that, I can't really think of anything else. There's really not many requirements. That's why there's so many people that get into this. That's why the industry is so saturated. Transportation in general, not just expediting, because this is such an easy business to get into. That's why you see so many transportation businesses popping up, because it's easy to start one. But yeah, that's it. All right, next question. It says Eco Luhur. I'm not sure. ECO. First name Luhur is his last name. But anyhow, they ask, I have had this question since I started watching yours and Tim's videos, but I hesitate to ask. What is the benefits of you leased on to your current company compared to signing on to yours and Tim Paxton's authority? Thank you for the good quality content. Regards and safe travel. What are the benefits of leasing on to... I think this was asked when I was still with Barrett. I think he's basically asking, what are the benefits of signing on with somebody like Barrett, XPO, or something else, as opposed to being under my own authority? The benefits and why I was still there at the time. For one, comfort. I knew what I had. I wasn't quite 100% sure what I was going to get into if I left. So the difference is, with the new authority, you're going to be load board dependent, which can be a little scary because you have to build relationships and people want to start using you. You got to figure out certain lanes for certain prices. With a company that's already established, obviously you know what's there. You know what to expect from them because they've got a long-standing history going on, and they've got relationships established. Some of them have direct customers. So just the ability to know that you're going to have consistent work with an established carrier, that's really the only difference. Yeah, so, but now I've made the move, obviously, and going to just continue to build from there. All right, last question I'm going to do on this video. So, Limitless Hot Shot says, hey Apex, quick question. How much space should I allocate for cargo? Would it be better to do 120 inches or 144? How common are the 48 by 48 skids compared to the 48 by 40s? Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Drive safe. So, now, if you had asked me this, I guess I still would have had the same answer. 144 inches, in my opinion. I would allocate. I would always be able to. See, I hate when I have questions like this, because I start thinking about different things. Because, as usual with some of these questions, it's a lot of the answer is going to depend on you as a person. What kind of money do you need to make? What are you coming out on the road more for? Make a little bit of money, but more for the road and the lifestyle. Are you needing to come out and grind? So there's kind of, I need to know certain things. But me personally, coming from my experience and my, how I look at things, I want the 144. Okay, because I always want to have all my, as many options as possible. So I'm going to take the 144. Now, to the question of how many 48 by 48s as opposed to 48 by 40s, it's a lot more postings of 48 by 40s or 48 by 48s. Now, when you get there, that's a different story. I'd say it's kind of, I don't know, it might be 50-50, 60-40, the 60 being 48 by 48s. But a lot of times, these brokers are putting the dims out there of the freight at the largest. Just like, for instance, they want the full capacity, so they might put out there 3 pieces, 48 by 48 by 48 at 3,000 pounds. You get there, it's 2 skids at 40 by 48 or 40 by 42, or, and it only weighs like 1,500 pounds. So they're just bidding to cover their ass that if because sometimes we're picking up at manufacturing places, so sometimes there's not as much product, or the product isn't completely finished as much as they wanted, but they want us to take off with it because the customer needs as much as they can get at that point. So, not trying to confuse you, but more often it's 48 by 48 is what you're going to come across. Like for instance, yesterday the dims were on the Raycon 48 by 42 by 38, and it ended up being 54 and a half, almost 50, pretty much 55 by 40 by 38. So that's just what you deal with. And the weight was supposed to be 3,000. It ended up being 2,700 and some change. So it's more common to get the to get the 48s, but and like I said, and honestly, since seeing the load board more often, and especially that week of doing the dispatching, the amount of loads that are 144 or better is more than I would have thought. Okay, and like just for instance, like what I kept track of for 1 year, as far as what would have fit into a large and extended cargo van. So basically 120 some odd inches at 48 inches high. It was like 25% of the freight could have went in, or 75% of the freight could have went into a cargo. But that's still, 1 out of 4 that you couldn't get. You know what I mean? So if you're looking to make the most amount of money and have the most options and to get the freight, the 144 for sure. But that's what I've seen on the load board too. A lot of 148s, because we have a few vans that are 140 and shorter, and it's amazing the difference. Just the amount of loads you can't bid on because you don't have a 144. Like it's crazy. And again, a lot of it is probably the brokers just putting it on the load board at those dims. But it is what it is, and you can't bid it anything different. You can't, like, bid on a 3-skid 144-inch length and hope that you get there and it's not 144. You get there and you hope, oh, it's probably going to be on 40s. You can't do that. So you gotta have what you know what's on the board. So yeah, I would do the 144 for sure. Just like, for instance, trying to think of something like the way I've got my storage and stuff on the sides back there. I'm actually going to figure out a way to put everything up higher, because like I had that one load where I needed the extra width, and then I put the skids there to lift it up above the wheel wells to give me that extra width. I want to try to get my van together to where I can do that regularly if I need it. So it'll make it a lot easier to do if I can get my storage stuff up off the ground a little bit, or off the sides, get them up higher and give me a certain amount of space from the top of the wheel well to where my storage spaces are on the wall to give me that extra width. But all right, yeah, it's gonna do it for me, man. Yeah, I'm gonna get this van washed. I don't know if you can see it, man. I'm sitting here just dripping. It's like 80 some odd, like almost 90 degrees here, man. I'm freaking just dripping. It isn't much of a breeze, but anyhow, I'm gonna get off here, guys. All right, bye.